In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I made $8.5 thousand trading Nasdaq, how I did it, and also, as you're going to see, secured a 4K payout on Lucid as well. So let's get into how I actually did it. So let's get on to the charts themselves and see why I actually took this trade. What I was seeing was we were extremely bullish, okay? We look like we're going towards these highs up here, this high up here, and then all-time highs up here. Super bullish bias, okay? But what I seen pre-market is we had this unfilled 4-hour gap down here, as you can see. Let me turn my magnet on. With our 4-hour unfilled gap down here, as well as having two 1-hour unfilled gaps right here. And this, to be honest, was a good area if we got the right price action for price to come down before going higher. So I was looking to catch the manipulation on the higher time frame, but a good lower time frame entry, okay? What I was seeing a market open was we end up inversing to the downside this hour gap, end up respecting it, end up tapping this order block, rejecting out of it. It also was a 15-minute sweep of a high inside this 15-minute fair value gap that ended up holding right there. So we had that. We also had a 5-minute sweep inside a 5-minute gap, as you can see up here. We swept out this high right here, as well as sweeping out the high again inside the gap off open. So this, to me, this push or this sweep right here, and then this momentum to the downside was a very good indication we were going to head towards the unfilled gaps to push us higher. That was my thought process for this trade, okay? When I let price play out, unfortunately, we had no entries right there. The break-evens were gone. Again, if you entered, you probably would have been break-even anyways. Sorry, my chart froze. As you can see, we end up sweeping out this high inside the gap. Don't know why that wasn't showing up before. We end up sweeping that right there, and we had a sweep inside of the first presented gap of the leg down, okay? Which was right here. So this to me was a high and a very important high, I apologize. This to me was a protected high. If we are going to break this high, we're going to go higher. If we hold it, I see price going lower. As you can see, price came and wicked my area of interest, my draw on liquidity for the day. When we end up wicking down right there, that was a good sign to me when we pushed back up and didn't re-break this high. So we end up holding the protected high, and now we had more liquidity under this low here that we can target for short positions using that low and the 4-hour unfilled gap as our draw on liquidity for the trade. When I go over to the 30-second time frame, for some reason it doesn't work in my trading view. It's been like that a year now. It's so annoying. But this ended up being the trade. The 30-second fair value gap right there, even though it's super small, is the last fair value gap on the leg down. That if it gets inversed, we should at least head to these lows down here before reversing higher. So that was my idea of the trade. I have a draw on liquidity, I have a protected high I can use as my stop loss placement, and I have the last confluence I need in my strategy, which is an inversion fair value gap that we got right there. Again, I'll show it in trading view just because it's a little bit cleaner, but that, as you can see, end up being our entry right in that area right there. And what I end up doing was entering, obviously, think over here's where I entered on the 32nd, as I just showed. And then we're obviously looking for this 4-hour unfilled gap here. But 0.5 RR, and I do not take negative RR trades. Me and the private core in my group never take negative RR trades. We'll have to target at least this low down here, and we can use these lows here as break even. So I'm going to use this low here as my break even level when we get that and draw a break even. Now, this is where one of my rules made me another 0.75 RR today. And what it is I see how price reacts off these key levels. As you can see, we end up displacing down to the downside still. So I started trailing my position quite tightly. But price kept displacing to the downside, so I kept trailing my position all the way down to these lows down here, all the way to the last, as I showed, this last red line is this last hour unfilled gap, our last drawn liquidity to the downside. I trailed all the way down here, and when this candle came up right there, I ended up getting took out right there for about 1.75 RR on this trade. That's the strategy. Protect. That's my strategy. It's a 3-step model. I need a draw on liquidity, I need a tap or sweep into a key area, and I need an inversion with momentum. We got all of them in this strategy. It's not as picture perfect as some of the trades I might show, but when you break it down, everything makes sense. We understand why we're going to go to the downside before going back up to the upside, and as you can see, we were basically correct for the day. We caught the manipulation down before going higher, and that's exactly what I was looking to catch with that trade. That's how I went against my bias and made 8.5k today. I had a long bias, but the shorts were the lower time frame move that I wanted to catch before the bias ended up playing out, which would be to the upside, as you can see right there. If you want to learn this strategy, if you look on my YouTube, there's actually a free course. I do have a free Discord, and if you want to join the private corner, get like more kind of access to me and live calls and live trading that we do, you can apply. It's the top link in the bio, and hopefully I'll see you inside the private corner and start taking your trading seriously to maybe have days like this in your trading.